Welcome to Talk Israel, where we bring you thought-provoking stories and inspiration that connect young creative people in Israel and America. So today we're excited to have Emily Austin with us, an actress, sports journalist, and a true influencer who uses her platform to promote diversity, inclusion, and social change.
With over 1.5 million followers on social media, Emily is known for her NBA talk show, The Emily Austin Show, as well as her work as a media consultant for the Permanent Mission for Israel to the United Nations. She's also known for being a proud Jew and so much more.
In this interview, we'll be discussing Emily's journey as a multi-talented creator, her experiences in Israel, and her advice for young aspiring creators looking to achieve success.
So without further ado, let's jump right into the conversation. Thank you for joining us, Emily.
Thank you guys for having me.
Yeah.
Our first question, please tell us 2 fun facts about yourself that nobody knows.
So funny, when I read this question, it seems like suddenly I forgot everything about myself, but 2 fun facts that nobody knows. Okay. I am taking car racing lessons soon in Saint-Tropez because I just came back from Formula 1, and I was like, why can't I do that? And the company that I came with, Lafitte Automobile, is like a descendant of F1 champions. They said, actually, we can give you car racing lessons. So I'm starting that.
That's so cool.
New career we can add to the list. And then second fun fact nobody knows is I was a huge prankster in high school, and I would get in a lot of trouble sometimes. But I've calmed down now. But the pranks, some of them are on my TikTok. But in high school, I would just prank everyone.
Do you have like a favorite prank?
I have my least favorite prank. One time I had like a Talmud class, and there was like these weird desks in my high school that like a human could fit under because they were so big. And I hid under her desk to surprise her when she walked in, but instead the disciplinary dean came in and sat. So I was under the desk the entire class, praying that nobody would snitch because I would have got expelled in a heartbeat. And the entire class, I'm standing there in the corner of the desk, and he's sitting and lecturing the class. And until the bell rang, for 45 minutes, I was stuck there. And nobody snitched, thank God.
That's wild.
That's crazy. Did you ever do a senior prank like with your class?
I think they did. I was left out of it. I didn't have any inclusion from that. I was going to steal their thunder, but I think they threatened us that if we had done a senior prank, we'd all not graduate, so we didn't do it.
We have to get ours like approved with administration, which
Yeah,
is
that's
kind of
not
funny
fun.
because then we're telling them what the prank
Yeah.
is. We're bringing a mariachi band though that's going to play the entire day in the teacher offices.
Oh my God. They would kill me.
Exactly.
So during past interviews, you've mentioned that you've spent many summers in Israel. So if you could share like your best memory from a place you visited or any experience that you've had in Israel that you've loved.
That's a great question. I've been there so many times. I think my favorite Israel memory is, you have to stay true to yourself. I love that in Israel I can eat everything because I keep kosher, right? And for me to not have McDonald's, like, I don't mind it so much because I eat healthy now anyway, and I actually just became vegan. But I love that in Israel, before I would go to my Safda's house, I would make a pit stop and get like 50 chicken nuggets and just be able to eat them without worrying because everything's kosher there.
Yeah.
So that's my fondest memory. But of course, I'll never forget the first time that I was old enough to remember the kotel and having my mom tell me, if you write something on a piece of paper and you put it in the wall, like God will hear you. And I was like, oh my God, this is like a direct communication. So that was always very wow to me. And every time I go back, it doesn't get old. It's such a wow feeling. And there's actually one story. I keep forgetting this happened because it feels like a dream. I had a classmate in high school. She was very sick. She had brain cancer, and she couldn't come to school anymore because she was so sick. And I felt helpless, and all I could do was go to the kotel and pray for her. And I'm standing there, and I'm davening so hard, and I said, I pray for her health, and I just want to see her one more time. And you know how in the kotel you walk backwards?
Yeah.
As I'm walking backwards, I'm like, wow, she looks just like the girl that I prayed for, but she wouldn't be in Israel. She's too sick to travel. And it was her, right there in front of me at the kotel. They flew her out private so that she could pray because she wasn't doing well. And I saw her in front of my face, and I was like I have chills right now. I'm like, what just happened? This is insane. So I don't think I'll ever forget that.
Wow, that's really the kotel has also been just like, every time I go, I love it. I love it. I remember when I was 6 years old, like, I got there and I was just like, wow, like
What is this?
Yeah. It's like you learn about it in elementary school and preschool, like at Jewish school, and it's just like when you go there, it's like there, and it's crazy.
I wanted to ask actually, just like when you travel, do you continue to keep kosher, and like is that difficult?
It's so difficult. There's so many times where I'm so hungry and I'd love nothing more than to go through a drive-through, right?
Yeah.
But I just can't, you know, it's something that I've kind of done before I even understood it. And then as I got older, I'm like, okay, this is just a value that I keep, and now I understand it. And it's not fun, and I won't lie to you and say that it's glorious, because it's not, but you know, it's important to me. So it's definitely hard, especially in some other countries that definitely don't have a great selection, or there's always meat and dairy or pork or shrimp or whatever it is, like can't have it. So it gets hard.
We want to call back to Israel. You know, people often say that Israelis and Americans are so different. What do you find to be like the common ground between Israelis and Americans?
Ooh, I think the common ground is that at the end of the day, and I think this goes beyond Israelis and Americans, like people are always intrigued by one another. And something I found between Israelis and Americans is like, we ultimately love the same things, right? I'll go to Israel and I'll bond with people over sports, for example. It might be different sports. So in Israel, they love soccer, but here in America, we love the NFL and basketball. And you could always find like a common denominator, I think, between sports, which is something that I really preach, you know, like use sports to build bridges, use sports to bring communities together. But specifically, Israelis love sports and go wild over it. Like, I remember I was on the Fifth Avenue NBA store and everyone there was speaking Hebrew. And I was like, whose jersey are you buying? Like, what are you doing? And they're like, I don't know. But everyone loves sports. So I found really good talking points with Israelis over basketball.
Yeah. And that's kind of just like what you do. So you're able to connect both of your backgrounds. I love that. So what were some of the challenges you faced when you tried to break into the industry and secure your first interview with players? How did you overcome them?
Wow. I was so like burnt over and over and over again. Everyone loves to not help you. It's such a greedy industry of everyone like eat what you kill, which is life. You eat what you kill. But I mean, I won't sound humble saying this, but being a kind person, like trying to always help where I can, to be in a situation where people who have already achieved the most success, where it's obviously not a competition, and I'm coming out to you, making myself vulnerable, asking you, how can I start? How can I get into this? And being told, oh, you can't, or you'll never do it, or you're a woman, or, you know, those things, it's hard to overcome because when someone's just refusing to help you, and you always need help at the end of the day. I don't care how big you are. Everything is about who you know and building relationships and being kind and helping, offering that helping hand. And honestly, I built my own doors. Nobody opened them for me. In fact, when I started this, I was only being discouraged to step away from it. They were telling me like, you're too young, it's hard for women in this industry, but that never deterred me. Instead, I was just like, okay, well, they said no and she said no and he said no, so what do I do now? So I had two options. I can either go back to studying medicine and doing something that maybe I don't love for the rest of my life, or I could maybe do it a little bit more slow, but I can build my own door, open it myself, and create my own opportunities. So, you know, in the beginning, everyone told me in terms of signing with an agent, you're never going to sign with an agent, you're too young. Now I'm signed with Wasserman, which is one of the biggest agencies in the United States. And I just think that the moral of the story is when someone doesn't want to help you, they won't. And if you really want something, only you can help yourself better than anyone else can. So build your own door sometimes.
Yeah, well. Do you remember your first interview?
Yeah, oh my God. I needed an eyebrow wax, like direly. Oh my God, I hate that it's even on the internet. It just haunts me. But I'm sitting there with like a glass of water and I'm like, welcome back to Daily Vibes with Emily. and the player's like, are you okay? I was like, no. My first, I would even argue 10 interviews were horrific. They were just atrocious. I wasn't even good at it, but it was a learning experience for me. Yeah. I wish like the internet didn't exist and they could all be disappeared. But I used it like in the beginning. I would watch it back, I would cringe, I would take a notepad and say, don't like stutter less, don't say don't say I think. I would really just critique myself. And then at some point I hired a broadcasting coach literally just for a month because she ended up also telling me like, you're too young. And I can't stand when people say that because I just don't believe in that. And I really coached myself. Like I was my harshest critic, and at some point they stopped being bad and they actually became very good. So it worked out.
That's great. I feel like being a woman in just like any industry, like you're always told like you can't really do it as good as other people.
Yeah.
I love that you've been able to like pave your way into that.
Thank you.
So how has your life changed since becoming a multi-talented creator?
I mean, I think it's just changed in a way where, you know, sometimes things don't go the way you expect them to be. So obviously, if I spoke to myself 5 years ago, I would never think like, hey, you're going to be working on TV one day. Every move you make is going to be scrutinized by the world. You're never going to make everyone happy. Everything you do will be judged. People are always going to come for you. And thank God, like, I'm not such a sensitive person when it comes to strangers criticizing me. Like, if I know you personally, maybe I'll care. But I never thought in a million years, like, if I post on Instagram, everyone's going to have an opinion about something that I care about, or especially when I speak about Israel, how much hate I would get and the death threats that I get and the relationships that I lose and the followers that I lose. And, you know, I never thought A, I would get to this point, and then B, once I was here, have so much hate for something that I believe in.
We wanted to ask about that, sort of the aspects of anti-Semitism and hate online. So how do you handle that? Do you handle it privately or publicly? What does that look like for you?
I've always said I'm going to handle it privately because I don't want to let them have the satisfaction of getting to me, but it's much easier said than done. So I remember the first instance that really hurt, and like really hurt. I didn't want to get out of bed that morning. I was in Boston. Kyrie Irving had just said wildly anti-Semitic remarks, and then his refusal to apologize is what hurt me, because I believe in people making mistakes, but being in the sports world and seeing someone like Kyrie Irving, who has more followers than the Jewish population, and see his refusal to accept that he made a mistake really hurt. So I knew if I posted something, he would likely see it. And I wrote a letter to him, a very non-aggressive, just as a Jew, this is why what you said hurt me. And I posted it on Twitter. And suddenly I was branded as a racist for attacking Kyrie Irving. And it wasn't one comment, it wasn't two comments, it was thousands of comments, people tagging ESPN, who I don't even work for, telling them to fire me because I'm a racist, or, you know, calling me white supremacist, or a Jewish blonde white elitist. And I was like, for condemning the fact that Kyrie posted something about Hitler, like, how am I the issue here? And that was hard. That was the first time I was like, I can't, because how do I tell you, listen, I'm not a racist, if the entire Twitter platform is calling me one? It was so hard to be told what I am or what I'm not. And then following that, I just realized you're never going to make everyone happy. You know, you need to do what's right. You need to always stand on the right side of history. And if people are going to be upset by something that's true to you, then sometimes you do have to stand alone. And that's also what really hurt. I felt like I was alone. You know, I know there's a lot of Jewish influencers and the Jewish youth out there, and I know that they're seeing my stuff, and sometimes I'm like, why do I get more hate than support when, like, I'm doing this for something bigger than myself? You know, it would be nice to have some support behind that. And after that, I just, you know, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, and I really mean that. So it just became a little more chazak.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned other like Jewish influencers, but what guidance would like you offer to other young creators who are having like very similar difficulties to you, Jewish or non-Jewish?
Yeah, good news for everyone. So I asked a bunch of younger people, like hundreds of kids, like, why aren't you guys posting? And everyone said, I'm afraid. So I said, okay, raise your hand if your classmate would post. Would you post something if your classmate had? And everyone said yes. So it seems like everyone's waiting for that one person to start it and for everyone else to follow. And when I really started speaking one-on-one, I said, why don't you post? And they're telling me, I'm afraid to lose my job. I'm afraid I won't get into this university. I'm afraid I'll lose my friends. First of all, if you're losing friends over the fact that you're a proud Jew, they're not your friends anyway. Secondly, I share this story. I'm so happy. I was called on a random Thursday morning asking me if I wanted to become a judge for Miss Universe. Now, having ran for Miss New York and lost, it felt really good to come full circle and be able to choose the next Miss Universe, and I was so honored. Fast forward, the pageant's coming to an end. I think we just had selected the Miss Universe, Miss USA, and I speak to the producers. And I go to them, so what's your favorite sports team? And they're like, I don't know, we don't follow sports. And I said, what do you mean? So why did you guys hire me? How'd you kind of come across my profile? And they said, we love the fact that you're a proud Jew. We love your activism. We love that you wear a Star of David and you never take it off. My Miss Universe headshot has a Star of David on it. And they said, we hope that the Miss Universe you choose will reflect you in them. And I was like, I need to tell everyone I got a job for being a Jew. I need to tell the world.
Yeah.
And I tell that to kids, and I said, don't be afraid, because even if one door closes, a better door will open, and it just might be worthwhile.
That's awesome. I mean, you obviously deal with a lot of hate for your Jewish identity.
Yeah.
Can you tell a story sort of one time that you experienced that hate and how you dealt with it personally?
Yeah, I think it really took off in the start of the 2021 conflict in Israel with the missiles, and that was actually the first time I'd posted. So I went to Poland a couple of years back, but I didn't even have Instagram at the time. I got Instagram, I think my last year of high school, maybe even college, and I wanted to start small. I knew my audience wasn't Jewish people, I knew they weren't Israelis, but I needed to almost express like, okay, now my people are being threatened, I need to do something. And I posted on Yom HaAtzmaut a cupcake with a Star of David on it. And that was it. I posted it. I'm like, oh my God, I'm not looking. I'm not going on Instagram for the rest of the day. I'm not ready for what's going to come. And I got so many messages saying, I didn't know you were Jewish, which is like, okay, it's to be taken as you will. But then I got messages, I really respected you till I find out you're a Zionist or you're a Jew. And that was so hurtful because you liked me 5 minutes ago, but suddenly you don't. But I didn't even get upset. I was like, you know what? This is an opportunity to actually now have a conversation and see where this irrationality is coming from. So that was like a smaller instance where it's like a random follower will say something and I will bother engaging to change their mind. And usually it does work. But there's also the handful that you don't want to engage with. And then there's the high profile people that I'm working with that were in the same industry. And I mentioned yesterday in my speech, the coach of the Utah Jazz posted Free Palestine. Now, I know that he knows nothing about the conflict. Like, there's just no way. This isn't what you do. You're a basketball coach. You're African American. You have no Israeli or Palestinian roots in you. So what are you posting? And I called him on the phone and I'm trembling. Like, literally during my first interview, shaking. I'm shaking because I'm like, now I know I'm never going to work with this team ever again. So I called the coach and I asked him, hey, I saw you posted about Palestine. Most of the league follows you. You're a role model to many. You have so many followers. Can you teach me about the conflict? Because I want to learn more about it. And he's like, oh, I don't know anything about it. I just know that I'm an African American man. My people are being oppressed as the Palestinians are, and it's my job to stand with them. I was so taken back, but that was just the beginning of what would be an hour and 45-minute long conversation of me just educating him on here's what you heard, but here's the reality of it. And here's why it's so dangerous to do what you did. Because guess what? 5 minutes after his post, an NBA player with 10 million followers followed his footsteps and posted Free Palestine. And I didn't have that player's number to go call and tell him to delete it. But fortunately, at least I changed the coach's mind. He deleted the post, he apologized, and he understood how dangerous what he just did was. And hopefully now when he speaks to his teammates or his other coaches or other teams or high profile people, now at least he knows the truth. So that's something that I really try to do. Like, it starts off as a bad situation, but I use social media also as an opportunity to be able to correct a bad situation.
Wow, yeah, that's awesome.
That's great. That's really, yeah. It's just like, it's such a hard topic, and it's great that you were just like, I sometimes get like so like nervous to talk about it with other people because I just like don't want them to like think bad things of me, because it's like, obviously like everyone there's right to both sides. There's always, the truth is in the middle, and I'm always scared to do something about it, and I think it's really respectable that you just like went ahead and just did it.
Just remember the Miss Universe story.
Yeah, exactly. Is there one achievement in your career that you find, rises above the rest as your proudest?
Yes, it's pretty new, so I'm excited to share. I always respected entrepreneurs, and I really know like the grind that comes with it. And I actually opened I started a skincare company called People's Beauty. I'm the owner of it now. And it's like a vegan, cruelty-free, which means like no animal abuse involved in our makeup testing and product testing, clean beauty. And I'm so proud of it because I started to learn about like the cruelty in makeup testing and the food industry and how these innocent animals are abused. So I was like, if I ever do something in skincare and beauty, I'm going to make sure that like me being beautiful is not going to be because animals are suffering, at my expense.
So tell us more about People's Beauty, your makeup brand that you've created.
Yeah, so super proud of it. It's cruelty-free, meaning we don't test any of our products on animals. It's clean beauty. We have no fragrances, no dyes, no silicones, no parabens. I literally took the time to study it. It's manufactured in the skincare hub of South Korea, which is where a lot of estheticians study skincare. And I'm really proud of it because after I was exposed to the horrors of the beauty industry, and I was like, oh my God, am I contributing to this? This is barbaric, and I don't want to be a part of it, but I also do love having glowing skin and looking beautiful when I can. So I am proud that you can have both, and I'm trying to really tell everyone you can look beautiful and also not paying thousands of dollars, because we don't believe that only the elite need glowy skin. So People's Beauty is very affordable. It's very easily accessible. We have no pink tax because we don't want it to only be, for women. I want to break the narrative that men can't do skincare. Of course you can. So it's gender neutral. And I think we're just, breaking barriers by showing the world you can be pretty at an affordable price for any gender, any time of the week you want. And that's People's Beauty.
Yeah,
it's the People's Beauty.
That's great.
Do you have any advice for creators that might want to turn their brand into a product?
I think it's important to understand your audience. This really goes for anything you want to do on social media. I understand that my sports audience are probably not the same people buying my skincare. Probably not at all, actually. I'd love to see more, athletes and sports fans and men wearing skincare, but it's not realistic. So I think it's important to know who you're trying to target and then really go full force with that. So I know on my Emily Austin account, I really try to keep it sports related. Of course, I have my activism involved there too. And you need to show the people what they want to see. You don't want to lose engagement. You don't want to lose interest. So, with my other panelists, they all had their little niche, and you need to stick with it. So for my skincare, I'm going to really try to target, anyone that cares about clean beauty and anyone that wants clear skin. If that's a priority to you, you're going to love my product, and here's why. Of course, there's the cross branding where I will promote it, of course, on my Emily Austin account. I'll get a lot of questions, which is good. If people maybe don't buy it right away, at least they'll have this new interest in at least what is it, But you need to understand your audience. I think it's super important, and you have to really drive full force to target them. Otherwise, you're wasting your time.
Yeah. So what do you think are must tools for intermediate level creators looking to elevate their content and grow their brands, also just continuing with the conversation of creating their brand into the product?
Into a product, you're saying?
No, sorry, let me ask the question again. What are must tools for creators looking to elevate their content and just grow their brand in general?
Yeah, I think it's important to experiment. See what works. So in the beginning, I mentioned there was a prankster. I got very viral on TikTok doing pranks, but then at some point, you see the engagement maybe dies down a little bit, trends change, times change, COVID ended, things got back to reality. And sometimes it's okay to rebrand. Something could work for a while and then suddenly times change and it's not relevant anymore. And sometimes you need to sit back and think, okay, what's next? There's nothing wrong with rebranding, and I think people don't understand that. I met a lot of content creators at a Jewish conference in, I think it was Boston, and I spoke to them about how hard it was to get to where we are today, and all of us have the same common denominator of we needed to rebrand at some point. So for me in the beginning, I wasn't sure really what to do after COVID. I was like, I can't do these Zoom interviews anymore. Things are starting to return back into real life. What do I do at this point? And I had to take a few steps back and think, okay, here's what's next. Here's what I need to do next. And there's nothing wrong with that,
Yeah, that's awesome. Obviously, it's no secret that mental health and burnout play a role in the creator industry. How do you handle, preserving your mental health with pursuing your career?
Oh, I had a mental breakdown last week. No, I mean, we all have that breaking point. And I think for me, I mentioned that following the Kyrie Irving incident, that was one of my lowest breaking points. It's not even something other people can see. I went to the conference, I spoke, got the applause, and I'd go back to my hotel room and cry, I think, everyone has something going on and you won't even see it. Everyone has their battles that they face. For me, it's less social media. I stopped really caring what people thought about me, and I have accepted truly you won't make everyone happy, and that's okay. because you will make some people happy, and most importantly, I'm happy. I'm true to myself. If you don't like it, that's too bad. You know, you don't have to follow me if you don't want to.
Yeah.
But I think that, mental health definitely is affected by social media. I want people to know not to take strangers' comments so seriously. And also, it's a compliment. If you think about it, I don't know the last time I went on my phone to go to someone's page to write something nasty. You know why? Because I don't care that much. So if someone is doing that, they just care about you that much to go waste their time and energy to go write on your post. So you know what? If you're getting hate, don't let it affect your mental health. Take it as a compliment and keep going.
Right, and they're just like improving your
engagement.
Yeah, exactly. Keep DMing me. Come on.
Let's keep it up.
Just algorithm. Exactly. So looking ahead into the future, where do you see yourself in your career, like 5 years in the future, 10 years, and yeah.
I hope to be the most successful skincare company owner, A. B, I'm repicking up my show called The Hoop Chat. I also recently had to take a step back and rebrand because, what I thought I was going to do with this basketball series didn't end up working out. So now I'm starting my show. It's called The Hoop Chat with Emily Austin, where once a week I'm going to feature either sports personalities, NBA coaches, NBA players, and really have like a chat that's supposed to mimic like what you'd imagine a group chat's going to be like. And I really hope that The Hoop Chat is a show that I don't even necessarily need it to be on a network, but I hope that it gets the viewership and the worldwide views of every sports fan in the world. So I hope to see that pick up. I hope the skincare goes well, which it will. And, I'm always going to be unapologetically like a proud Jew. So that's something that I'm always going to put in my content, authentically, of course. Like, I'm not going to rub it in your face. I'm not going to be the Jew in the room, but you'll always know how proud I am to be a Jew, And I like where I'm at right now, and I just hope to see it get bigger as the years go on.
I was really curious about your upbringing. We watched an interview with you, I think with the Jewish Journal, where you mentioned that, your dad would always tell you, you're going to be a TV host one day, like I'll see you up there, but you would kind of deny that. What do you think made him say that?
So my dad himself is such a good speaker. He just speaks and everyone listens, and he like commands this respect, and he has just such a bold voice, and he's always been a leader. My mom too, but my dad, one's more like the speaker and one's more the brain. So we have like a good dynamic going on with my parents, but I took his genetics when it comes to the public speaking, and I understood that from a young age. I definitely understood it, but it didn't necessarily mean I wanted to go into public speaking. Right. So then finally when I realized I don't want to be a surgeon like I thought I did, I actually think my dad has something behind what he's saying when he used to tell me my whole childhood, like, I see you being on TV. He'd point to these anchors on TV and be like, that's going to be you. And I would just like laugh. It's cute. It's a compliment. And then my grandfather, my mom's dad, randomly comes up to me one day and he's like, I really see you being on TV. Like, you're too well-spoken, you're too beautiful to not be on camera. And again, I just laughed. And it's so funny. He ended up, he passed away before I even got a gig on TV, but I think he would have been really happy to see, me on TV. But I think when people tell you something, it always sits in the back of your brain. And at some point, their thoughts became a reality. So it was cool.
Yeah. That was really cool that you just you didn't think that you would be something, and then you're completely the opposite.
Yeah.
I always joke that as a kid we try to run away from our parents and our parents' wishes, and then at a certain point we hit 18 or 20, and then we just become our parents.
Yeah. Yeah, literally.
If you could go back in time and offer advice to your younger self when you were just first starting out as a creator, what would you say? What advice would you wish to have received back then?
That's a great question. I wish I could tell my younger self to not care what anyone else thought. Really, I know I say it over and over again, but growing up I was always kind of, I don't want to say problematic, but I was always kind of feeling different than everyone else. I always felt like there was no friend group I really resonated with, and I always felt like I was missing something, but I wasn't. And as I went throughout middle school and high school, I realized I was actually better off doing my own thing. And maybe at the time, because I was more, whether it was hustling or trying to work, or I knew what I wanted to do and everyone else didn't, I was the oddball out. But in fact, I was just maybe ahead of the game, and I felt like, lonely at times. But I wish I could tell my younger self, if you know what you want to do, don't let anyone else's opinion change what you want to do. Don't let anyone think that you're weird. Because let me tell you something, everyone that in high school maybe didn't want to be my friend, or I was the oddball out, or I'd have lunches with like the athletic department instead of the popular girls. Like, they want to intern for me now. So, just stay true to yourself. I know it's such cliche advice, but if you want something, you have to do it, or else you'll go back in time and say, I wish that I did it. That's something that at least I pat myself on the back for. I ended up doing what I wanted to do, but I wish that I did it more gracefully without worrying about what people thought about it.
As we're headed off to college next year, we're expecting to encounter a bit of anti-Semitism or anti-Israel sentiment. How did you handle that during college? Did you encounter any of that?
Oh my God. Do you know how many times everyone called me like, oh my God, I had a journalism professor where I left class for 2 weeks to go to the Super Bowl because I got a media credential for Sirius XM, and it was a sports reporting class, so you'd think you should be proud. I was told so many times by classmates and my professor, like, oh, like that smart Jew, or, oh, she's successful because she's Jewish, but not in a compliment way. Right. In a way where it's like, you're the Jew, as if it's me versus you, like you're the enemy. And you're my professor, you're a role model for all 40 kids in this classroom. How dare you say that in front of so many students? And I've said this before, I will find myself being the Jew in the room. I'm the only person there. My mom was so concerned that in my car I had a Israel flag hanging off the dashboard, and she said, one day you're gonna get attacked, you'll see. And people saw it, and I'd get death glares. I've had people, come up to my car and like try to rip the flag off. Like, people are kind of psycho, and it's something that you deal with, but at the same time, what's the alternative? To conceal my identity and let the hate overpower? So you just have to evaluate, like, yes, it's scary. It's maybe something I don't want to deal with, but what's the alternative? We can't stay silent. We saw what happened when we stayed silent, and we can't do that ever again.
Yeah. Is there ever a moment that you consider, or was there a moment that you did try to conceal your identity, like during your youth, or were you always so proud?
There was a time, where were we? Ironically enough, it was after my trip to Poland where I was prouder than ever to be a Jew, but I was very scared. Because I saw what happened. I tried to study what was society like before the Holocaust, what allowed the world to stay silent when this was happening to my people. And it's not different than any society we live in today. And that really scared me. So I would always tuck my necklace in, and I would always say, like, where are you from? America. Go patriotism. I'm from New York, But now when people say, where are you from? I'm Israeli. I'm not. I'm born in New York, but I'll tell people I'm Israeli just because that's how proud I am of my roots. And there was a time where I was really afraid. And then the same advice I just gave to you, I told myself, like, if I stay silent, everyone thinks staying silent is being neutral. But staying silent is actually hurting ourselves, because we're letting the hate overpower us, and we're letting our enemies become stronger in our silence. So I always try to move the needle the right way, and I try to really encourage people to also do the same, because being silent will be the end of us. So I tell that to myself all the time. It's scary, yes. It's not something I signed up for. Yes, maybe some opportunities have been lost. What's the alternative?
Yeah, 100%. So going back to like your trip to Poland and going to Israel after, how do you think that like changed your perspective on Israel in general?
Oh my God, I was so mentally ill after Poland. I had night terrors. I had a high fever that wouldn't break for 10 days. I was hospitalized. The horrors that I saw that happened to my people for being Jewish, for being born with a Jewish mother, we were murdered for it. It traumatized me so bad that now I understand why Israel is so important. We always say in my family, anti-Semitism is on the rise, and I'm not concerned about it. I'm not concerned in the United States. With more people hopefully being more vocal, I'm really not worried. But worst comes to worst, I know Israel will have our back. I know that 100%. If I need to go to Israel, they will welcome me with open arms, and they will protect me as they protect themselves. And we're one big, state that has each other's back, and I know I can rely on that. Which is why when people think that Israel shouldn't have the right to exist, you're saying my people don't deserve a home. We don't deserve a safe haven. And you saw what happened when we didn't have one. Because America turned us away, Europe killed us, Germany killed. How dare you say we don't deserve a home? So I understand now, Israel's more than a place to go on the beach and eat schnitzelim and have fun, but that's our home.
Yeah, 100%.
As we come to the end of our conversation, we kind of want to shift back to the social media and career angle. Do you have any final advice or insight for young creators that you haven't covered yet? Any kind of first words of advice for creators starting out?
Yeah, I would say just start. Just pull the trigger. If you don't know where it's going, that's fine. You can always experiment and rebrand. You can try to see what works and try to stay true to yourself because the content will come easier. So if you love food, make your content surrounding food. If you love race cars, make it around cars. If you love dressing up, you can do it around fashion. There's always some place you can start, and everyone has something that they like. And if it doesn't work, you can always rebrand. So just pull the trigger, start, post, hashtag, find people similar to yourself, collaborate. Everything in life is also relationships, which is why it's so important to be a nice person, because you never know when the person sitting next to you can offer you some help. And a lot of times that does go back to social media. You can collaborate with others and help each other grow your brand. And just start, see where it goes. Worst case, you didn't lose anything besides a little bit of time.
Right. So thank you so much for everything. This was a great interview. Yeah, I loved talking to you and just hearing what you had to say.
Thanks, guys. Good luck in college.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us.
Of course.